So I have a question about the real estate market in Western Canada. It seems to me that many of the baby boomers over the last 20 years have amassed a substantial wealth in the real estate increases in the values. Are the projections in the next sort of 10 to 15 years that they'll deleverage to take that capital into cash, liquid form, or that they'll just pass it on, right, to generations, so it won't actually be a liquidity in the market?
What, you're looking at me because you don't want to deal with housing?
Well,
okay.
we can give different perspectives on housing.
So it's fair to say that in particular, it's probably easier for this group to think about the Vancouver, the Lower Mainland marketplace. And you know, there's lots of data indicating that over the last 40 years, the price of housing in the Lower Mainland, and I specifically mean housing as opposed to single-family housing as opposed to condos or townhouses, because the two markets are totally different. So in single-family housing, prices have risen on average around 7% a year, which is more than would rationally be the case unless there's significant external forces. If you want to think about what baby boomers are going to do, are they likely to, quote, downsize? A lot of that's going to be an interesting function of what the demand side is going to be on the other side. And in the case of Vancouver, it's all about, at the margin, the impact of foreign or Asian buying. And the reality is that they want to make sure that they have a combination of both a lifestyle here. When they do surveys of wealthy Chinese, for example, something like 46% of people with more than $1 million of assets in China say they plan to emigrate from China in the next 5 to 10 years. And half of them plan to come to Vancouver or to Canada, split primarily between Vancouver and Toronto. So that means you've got money coming in here that, unless that changes, at the margin, it's going to keep the price of housing higher than it should be, and the increase is higher than they should be, until that buying demand in some way, shape, or form eases up. So it's hard to see things that will drive down the cost of housing. Eventually, higher interest rates will make a difference, but the main thing is it's going to be net wealthy immigration. If that slows down or stops, you're going to see much more normalized prices in Vancouver. The other interesting thing about the demographic of whether baby boomers decide to downsize, I can only speak anecdotally, but my experience has been that the majority of our clients who say they're going to downsize essentially are selling a 50 or 60 or 70 or even 80-year-old home, typically on the west side, less so in terms of age in West Vancouver, and they're essentially using that money to buy something that is new, smaller and new. But net, all the money's used up. It just went into something newer, maybe better, maybe with a view, all of those things. So rarely do I see a situation where somebody walks away from the so-called downsizing and actually has money in their pocket. And I think that may be part of the reason why a lot of our clients are deciding not to bother to downsize, because they realize there's no financial win, so they've got to make a decision. They're good with a newer, smaller place. So that's what I see in the marketplace, at least.
The only thing that I'd add to that, and I think, John, we're in the same place. Our kids are here in the city, and we're saying we'd like to see our kids stay in the city. So we're helping them, buy and stay into the market. So I think there's some wealth division to enable, our next generations to be able to stay in the city. But I mean, my daughter's a great realtor on the west side of Vancouver, and she laughs at me because I have no idea what value should be in housing, on the west side of Vancouver anymore. It just astounds me at the price. I've been telling them, and I tell everybody, if you're going to buy a house, buy it for the long term and expect, price to drop, maybe 15% in the near term. But I've been saying that for the last, 4 or 5 years, and I've been wrong every year.
Yeah, so have I.